So at this point, I'm sure all the Roblox players in my audience know about the infamous chat ban, with people of different age demographics not being able to chat with one another, and a face scan being required to verify how old they are. Because chatting's gotten so limited, Roblox roleplay games have lost a lot of players. So today, I thought I'd honor those games by telling a story about the most chaotic roleplay I've ever taken part in. This story takes place in the game Paper Mario Roleplay. Oh, I'm sorry, Storybook Roleplay, which has nothing to do with Nintendo in any way, shape, or form, I swear. Nintendo, you can put away the copyright hammer. This was a couple days before I recorded the footage for the Paper Mario video I posted in December. My friends and I wanted to do a quick practice run with our characters, trying to figure out their personalities and how they'd interact. The first character we had was mine, Captain Porto, a town guard and the leader of the Mushroom Kingdom's security. He was a by-the-book do-gooder with the ability to summon energy spears. And a quick side note, I didn't actually give him energy spears when I first started playing him. You'll understand why I did it very soon. Next, we have Physis, a magic sentient cloak who served as our scout. He had the power to create interdimensional portals from his chest, but where the portals lead is completely random. And finally we have Scott from Scotland, a 1-foot-tall Scottish toad with no arms and legs. And his whole gimmick was that he called people short in a Scottish accent. I am very sorry for that. And when my friend showed him to me for the very first time, I absolutely hated him. I don't know why I resented Scott from Scotland so much, but seeing this tiny little homunculus infuriated me. Look at his unfeeling, ear-to-ear grin. He just freaks me out. Anyways, it was just a test run, we said. And little did we know things would get crazy really, really fast. We decided to stand at the front gate of town and riff off each other, just so we could get our dynamic down. I don't exactly remember what we were talking about. Probably about how evil Scott from Scotland was, and things were going okay. Until suddenly, 3 people approached the front gate. It was some teenage girl and her 2 dads, Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson. Trust me, it gets worse from here. Before we could let them inside, Porto ordered Scott from Scotland to frisk the 3 for any kind of contraband, which the girl absolutely hated, shouting obscenities at Scott from Scotland while he did so. But before he could finish the frisking, a large object crashed into the ground a few feet away from us, causing everyone's attention to turn to that. It also attracted some other people to the scene as well, with Roleplay from Deltarune, a Roblox noob, and a couple other randoms forming a crowd. As the smoke cleared, we all saw a large spherical object with a red circular window on the front. We all watched as the front half of the object opened up with a loud hiss, and stepping out of it was Vegeta from Dragon Ball. So, this is Earth, eh? How pathetic. That wasn't a bad Vegeta, right? Anyways, because Porto was kind of the de facto leader, he had to be the one to approach Vegeta and break it to him that this wasn't Earth. Probably. I don't really know how the Mario universe works. And after seeing this short mushroom man approach him, Vegeta goes, "Gah! What the hell is that thing?" raising his hand toward Porto, with it sparking as he prepared to fire off an energy blast. I thought Porto was doomed. But suddenly, Scott from Scotland teleported between us, and despite not having any arms or legs, uppercuts Vegeta into the sky. He then teleports into the air himself, and the 2 start fighting. And that's when I learned that Scott from Scotland was actually a 3,000-year-old martial arts master. The 2 continue fighting in the air for a bit, before Scott from Scotland knocks Vegeta back onto the ground, where he's then grabbed and strangled by Homer Simpson with his iconic sun choke. Peter Griffin then comes in and punches Vegeta away, but he didn't go down that easily. Vegeta then rushes toward Peter, launching him away with a flying knee. At this point, the other members of the crowd start jumping into the battle, with Physis trying to bind Vegeta in place with his cloak body, and the Roblox noob taking swings at him with his sword. During all this chaos, Roleplay keeps trying to convince everyone to stop fighting, trying to get people to spare Vegeta instead. And as he says this, Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's joins the fight, along with Lord Crump from Paper Mario, whose special ability is having a giant robot. And as everyone's fighting to protect the planet, that's when I realized something. Besides the teenage girl, Captain Porto is the weakest person in the whole fight. We've got an ancient martial arts master in the body of a baby, we have a sentient cloak who can create multiversal portals, and two dads with cartoon powers. Porto has, spears. Whoopity-doo. What could he possibly do to help? Anyways, after Physis lands a solid cut on Vegeta's side by sharpening his cloak body, the Saiyan warrior's actually looking pretty beat up. He then flies into the air with his entire body covered in energy, charging up a massive energy beam to destroy the entire Earth. Now, everyone's panicking, because despite how much power our little group has, nobody can actually fly. Well, nobody except one person. You wanna take a wild guess who that was? Scott from Scotland then flies into the air, demanding everyone to raise their hands and give him some energy. And once everyone did, his entire body began to glow as he fired off a massive beam that clashed with Vegeta's. Everyone looked on in shock, with neither beam having a clear advantage over the other. The teenage girl then turns to Porto and says, "Aren't you supposed to be the captain? Do something!" Porto then sighs, climbs on top of a bunch of blocks, aims a spear directly at Vegeta from behind, and throws it. And then, it goes directly into Vegeta's back, distracting him long enough for Scott from Scotland's beam to engulf him, sending him crashing to the ground, defeated. As Porto climbs down, he hears the cheers of everyone who took part in the battle, with them rushing towards the great hero who saved them all, Charlie from Smiling Friends, who walked in during the beam clash. Because I didn't announce to anyone what I was doing, from everyone else's perspective, Charlie walked up the second Vegeta started reeling in pain. And when Porto tried telling everyone that he was the one who distracted Vegeta, Physis turned to him and went, "Now Captain, nobody likes a glory thief." Whatever. Everyone was celebrating a hard-fought victory, and Vegeta was never seen again. For about a minute, we all turn as Vegeta stands up in pain, angrily holding a strange white orb in his hands. He then throws it into the air, and when he stares at it, he begins to grow in size, with fur starting to cover his entire body. And then, standing before us, was Vegeta, as a giant great ape. Vegeta immediately attacks, knocking out Peter Griffin in a single punch, causing everyone to scatter. As he starts fighting the other members of the crowd, Porto, Physis, and Roleplay rush over to heal Peter, with Roleplay using his healing prayer, and Porto digging around through Physis' multiversal portals to find some useful items. Back in the main battlefield, Great Ape Vegeta's already beaten most of the other fighters, with only Scott from Scotland, a severely injured Homer Simpson, and Charlie from Smiling Friends left. The massive ape then grabs Charlie, and despite Scott from Scotland's attempts to save him, Charlie Dompler, the mighty warrior who allegedly helped defeat Vegeta beforehand, was crushed right in front of us. And after watching this mighty hero be killed right in front of him, Homer Simpson flies into a massive rage, a giant golden aura surrounding him. And that, my dear audience, is when Homer activated his Super Simpson form. God, this video's incredibly stupid. But it goes even further, just you wait. With this new power, Homer and Scott from Scotland stand together, and with their powers combined, they knock down the giant ape, causing Vegeta to revert back into his normal form. And that is how the mighty warriors of the Mario world save the planet from a global threat. Until Vegeta gets back up again. It turns out getting obliterated by an overweight yellow guy and a 1-foot-tall baby with no arms and legs is pretty infuriating. And Vegeta's rage was so unbelievably strong that it caused a massive golden aura to explode from his body, sending everyone around him flying back. And standing before the remaining fighters was Vegeta, in his Super Saiyan form. That's right, it was a 3-phase boss fight. While Scott from Scotland and Super Simpson Homer try to fight, I'm off to the side trying to pull something useful out of Physis' body. Nope, useless, not that. What am I supposed to do with this? Eventually, Porto pulls out a pair of strange earrings, and at the same time, Roleplay finishes up healing Peter. After showing the other 3 the earrings, Peter gets a knowing look on his face, taking the earrings and rushing back towards the battle, with Porto, Physis, and Roleplay right behind him. As we rush back, Susie from Deltarune and Mario himself join in as well. Back in the battle, for some reason, Sonic the Hedgehog decided to join the fight as well, assisting Super Homer and Scott from Scotland. But by the time we rejoin the fray, all 3 are looking pretty worse for wear. Roleplay then approaches Vegeta, begging him to stop fighting so we can all talk this out. And after hearing this, Vegeta looks over, teleports right in front of Roleplay, and knees him so hard that he turns back into pixel art. Seeing our healer go down, Physis rushes in and binds Vegeta in place, allowing Porto, Susie, and Mario to land some attacks. But all it really did was piss him off, as he releases a burst of energy from his body that launches all of us back. As Porto and the rest of the group try to recover, Mr. Retro turns to him, a grim look on his face.
Captain, I know what I have to do. Goodbye.
He then turns to Vegeta, his entire retro body glowing with energy. He charges forward and grabs onto Vegeta, and after taking one last look at all the warriors fighting to protect their planet, Mr. Retro blows himself up along with his opponent. And as the smoke clears, Vegeta was completely fine. And if you're wondering who Mr. Retro is, so am I. He just randomly appeared, blew himself up, and died. But as the group continues to fight, Peter heads over to where Scott from Scotland and Homer Simpson are lying, with the teenage girl trying to get them up. And after the 2 recover, Peter hands Homer one of the earrings, telling him to put it on. And after some encouragement from Scott from Scotland, the duo put on the earrings. Suddenly, a strange force begins dragging the 2 cartoon dads together, and the second they touched, the entire battlefield erupts in a massive glow with everyone's heads turning. And standing there basked in glowing light was the mighty, the powerful, Peter Simpson, a fusion of America's 2 favorite cartoon dads. The fusion turns to Vegeta, teleporting right in front of him and delivering a mighty punch. Vegeta gets sent flying, and that's when Peter Simpson pulls out his ultimate move, the 5-gun Family Blast, engulfing the Saiyan in a massive wave of energy. And finally, after all the hardships, pain, and sacrifice, Vegeta was finally defeated, laying on the floor as the remaining fighters stood over him. But despite the massive attack, the Saiyan was still alive, crawling towards his space pod. And when Sonic tried to finish the job, Peter Simpson stopped him, because, I don't know, Mercy's badass, I guess? And as Vegeta escapes back into space, we all let out a collective sigh of relief. We saved the Earth. Peter and Homer unfused and got to go into town with their teenage daughter without needing to be frisked. Roleplay made a full recovery. Porto, Physis, and Scott from Scotland all went back to their guarding duties, and everyone lived happily ever after. Well, almost everybody. After the battle was over, a man came over to Porto introducing himself as Mr. Betro, saying how he came into town to visit his brother Mr. Retro, and asked me if I knew where he was. And that was when Porto had to awkwardly point to a small pile of retro ash. This was honestly so much fun to talk about, and if you want to hear more tales from my roleplays, be sure to show your support. Anyways, thank you all for watching, my name is Kustopia, and I will see you all someplace else.